Gunpla building is an amazing hobby. Being able to have small mecha models from an amazing mecha series is an amazing thing to be able to do. In the short time I've been building Gunpla, I've built a lot. And one of my favorite things I've learned in that time of building is that you can just straight build a kit and it looks amazing 9 times out of 10. But if you want to take it up to that next level, that's pretty easy to do. All you gotta do is some paint and I kind of suck at painting. But for those who may not be familiar, why paint Gunpla? Most of them are already color accurate out of the box, and it's plastic, it takes a lot of work. Why would you do it? Well, they look amazing when you do it. There are many folks that customize and make their kits look spectacular, and that's what I've been trying to do to different levels of success. Some of my favorite things to do are the simplest things that just really bring a kit to life. The panel lining, the adding the decals, and adding some metallic bits with some of the Gundam markers. It's a very simple thing to do, but it looks, spectacular. And whenever I do this, it just makes this kit feel like my own, even if my color scheme is just a clean version of whatever the actual colors are. I go a completely different route. Whatever it is, it just makes me feel so much more connected to the kit, the time I have with it. I remember it more, and it just more fondly in the heart. And what's nice is if you ever want to customize it, be the exact same for you. There are tutorials you can follow, but most of the time it's whatever you feel like you want to customize. There's very little discrimination from what I've seen in this community. People are so willing to help. They give tips, give pointers on how you can better your game without harshing your vibe, you know what I mean? Also, if you don't want to harsh my vibe, make sure you subscribe if you like this type of content. And so I saw some of those tutorials that I mentioned just a minute ago, and I thought, I want to do that. Obviously, again, my own version of that, but I really wanted to take my kits to the next level. Because I would see those customs, then I would see what I do, and they weren't the same. They were vast levels different. A lot of my kits, I wouldn't do super great color accuracy fixes. I would really splotch up some of the paints in some spots. For the longest time, I was really bad about clearing off the nubs on my kits. A lot of small little things that most people won't realize on a kit unless they're pointed out. But I notice every little one. I'm looking at my shelf right now. I can see 3 or 4 things on one kit alone. It's maddening. The first kits I customized were just pure brush painting. I would use a primer, paint them up. That was it. It took forever, multiple layers because I was using some cheap acrylics that weren't really meant for Gunpla. They still work, but to varying, again, results. Not only that, but whenever you get into Gunpla painting, you'll realize there's a difference between brush painting and airbrush painting. The level of detail you can get for the time you have to put into it, vastly different. So I was still not able to get that look that I wanted to with brush painting. And so, of course, the next logical step was moving to airbrushing. This is where I ran into a lot of problems. See, my first airbrush I got was a really cheap mobile air compressor airbrush combo that sucked ass. No other way around it. It was like $40 for the entire thing. The airbrush needle was just didn't quite work. The airbrush compressor lasted for 5-10 minutes, and then I had to charge it up, 5-10 minutes, charge it up. And just the paint that it would do, just nothing really seemed to work quite right. The airbrush would get clogged, it wasn't getting enough air, so stuff would splatter sometimes, then not enough the other times. Very inconsistent. But the few times it was consistent, I realized that's what I love to do. So I hunkered down, I spent some money, I got a real compressor and a real airbrush. And the results were mostly better. This is when I started to realize that most of the problems I was having were my issues. Kind of. I was still getting splotchy paint sometimes, paint was going on too thick occasionally, and whenever I would do pre-shading, I was still getting some weird differences. Some spots looked good, others not so much. Part of that was me not being patient enough. Other parts of it were my paint not being thin enough, even though I thinned it to the skim milk thing that everyone says to do, and it was still not thin enough, so then I thinned it way more, and then it was too thin, and then it was just blowing all over the kit. It was a disaster. And it was in the midst of all these issues that today's video sponsor, Gaahleri, came in. They were kind enough to send me their Mobius 0.3mm airbrush, as well as a nice variety of paints that I decided to use on a custom DEATHSCYTHE. And this is where the results really started to turn around. The paints they sent me worked spectacularly. It was like they were perfectly thin to work with their airbrush. I had nice even coats. Things were going on smooth. My pre-shading was looking spectacular. But I'm getting ahead of myself because we need to walk through the steps it took to get my kit looking like this to like this. If you like how these results look, now is a great time to get some of this stuff for yourself. Gaahleri is having their big Black Friday sale, and their airbrushes are down to their lowest prices they've ever been. You can get the same Morbius 0.3mm airbrush that I have for their lowest price they've ever had at $59.97. Or if you're wanting to get into the hobby or just getting started, they have their GAD 39. That's down to only $29.99 with this sale. Now is a great time to get into it. And on top of all their Black Friday sales, you can use code 10HYDUKIN at checkout to save an extra 10% on all your purchases. And that's good for paints, the airbrush, anything you get on Gaahlerie's website. Make sure you use the link down in the description below. Now let's check out just how great these products really are. So my painting process for any kit is to first get it out of the box, build it up, then immediately break it back down. The building process just helps me get familiar with how the kit is and where some pieces are going to line up and how they're going to work with others. Once you get familiar enough with like master grades or high grades of a specific line, kind of get familiar with how they are going to work out. For this Death Scythe, it was my third master grade in the Endless Waltz line of wing kits, so I was pretty familiar with the legs, the arms, the torso, just the general construction of the kit itself. It also helps me realize if there's going to be any seam or mold lines that I need to clear up before. We want as even of a surface for the paint as possible, so getting rid of those mold lines is important, and getting rid of those seam lines is important to make the kit look as finished as possible. Once all the line removal, nub removal, and just general cleanup of the kit is done, that's when it's time to take it apart and get to airbrushing. So for this whole kit, I use this matte black primer for the entirety of the kit. And with this primer, this is where I immediately notice a difference between it and some of the other products I've used in the past. I've used some other black primers before, and sometimes it can really seem like it's built up quite a bit, even with just one or two pass-throughs on a single piece. With this, it was perfectly even on everything, and I just had a nice base coat for everything, what a primer is meant to do, really getting this build off to an amazing start. No, I didn't just use blacks, I did use a little bit of a white primer, mostly for the pre-shading aspect of the kit. After the black base coat, I used a white primer to start my pre-shading, just making some of the areas a bit brighter in the middle, just to help get the pieces a little bit more lifelike of a feel. To do that, I really just covered the center, tried to keep the edges dark as possible, just so whenever I start applying the actual colors to the kit, there's going to be some nice variety on each individual piece. This is another aspect where it's important to know how the pieces go together, so that way you can make the shading look smooth across multiple pieces and not have a weird jag in the middle. As for the colors I'm using for this kit, I chose a nice variety. I was going for a bit of a Halloween theme when I built this Death Scythe. I'm a little late on that now, but I really like how it turned out. I did a complete replace for all the colors. For the white, I replaced it with this armor gray. Black had the hibiscus purple. I replaced the red with the sunset orange, dark gray with the phantom gray, and yellow with their bright yellow. And I kept everything pretty much to 1-to-1. I did do a few extra recolors at the bottom and top of the skirting. I made that bright yellow. The knee spikes I kept as a nice black. And same for the head. I originally was going to mask that completely off and do some different colors on everything. But then I started just adding a bit of that hibiscus purple towards the back and towards the V fin. I really like how it turned out, so I was midway, and I'm getting ahead of myself. So, as for the things I did not do with this kit, there were a few. I did not panel line it. If you built the Endless Waltz wing kit, you know there's really not too much opportunity for panel lining. There are a few I could have done. I decided against it for this build, just really wanted to showcase the painting on this one. And I didn't decal, and I didn't weather. I could go through with some water slide decals if I got some. I don't really want to use any of the sticker style decals because it would really show up a bit. After all the painting was done, I applied a nice gloss top coat over the top of it. I really loved this color scheme. I think that armor gray works really well as a more lifelike feel for a lot of Gundam kits. I will definitely be using that in the future to recolor whites with. My seam removal is still questionable at best. Some spots it's hidden away really well, other spots you can still kind of see it. Then I did a little oversanding on the legs, so my bad. And a few of the pre-shades were better than others. That part is completely on me still, not the paint's job, because I still just need to do a better job of realizing where I need to pre-shade and how much more black and white I need to use. So on me, not the paints. And the final thing I wish I maybe did a bit more was a little bit more color separation. If I added some more panel lining, maybe I could have, but again, these wing kits are basic, but not in a bad way. There's just not a lot of area to really work for color separation. Overall, I'm super happy with how this guy turned out. The Gaahleri paints and airbrush made this so much simpler and so much easier than any of the problems I've been having before. I gotta reiterate again, if you want this Morbius airbrush or any of their other airbrushes or paints, their deals are going on from November 20th until December 1st, so you have enough time to go get some of these at a discounted price. Again, use code 10HYDUKIN at checkout for an additional 10% off your purchase. I appreciate you watching. I'll see you guys in the next time. Don't forget to subscribe. Thank you. Peace.